What's going on, everybody? Thank you guys so much for watching the show. Wanted to talk to you about our friends over at Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching sports. This app is really easy to use. You just pick more or less on a few player stats, and you could win up to 1,000 times your cash on a single lineup. Best of all, Prize Picks will give you $50 when you play your first $5 lineup. Win or lose, you'll get $50 for playing. Use the promo code PFF and download the app now. It's Ohio State wide receiver Emeka Egbuka. I've never been more torn on a Buccaneers draft pick since as long as I can remember watching the team because I love the player. Emeka Egbuka is a phenomenal football player. I think he is going to be an excellent wide receiver. He is going to be fantastic. You just paid Chris Godwin.
Yep.
Mike Evans, I looked youthful there at the second half of the season. I think he's got 2 years left. Jalen McMillan, they just drafted, and I thought he came along fine last year. They still have Trey Palmer. They obviously re-signed Sterling Shepard as well. Baker Mayfield's buddy there. I'm so floored that they went receiver at 19.
Yeah, the only thing I can say is they've obviously seen Hassan Reddick at this point and liked what they saw, right? And here's a guy that's had a ton of sacks in his career, not last year, but he has. So maybe Diaby, they feel good with Reddick on the other side, and you got Vita Vea sitting inside. So there you go.
He's an amazing football player. And in fact, I had him in my mock draft going to the Denver Broncos here at number 20. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think that Tampa was going to go receiver. They brought in one receiver for a top 30 visit, and it ended up being Matthew Golden. But very clearly, they liked what they knew about Emeka Egbuka enough to not bring him in for a top 30. To me, this tells me something about Chris Godwin or Mike Evans. Like, does Mike Evans only have 1 year left before he's going to retire? Is Chris Godwin, are they that worried about where he is going to be with his knee injury? Very clearly, they're just making sure they're good no matter what. And so they're drafting a hell of a football player here, but I wonder if this tells us something about Chris Godwin coming off of that injury. And even after paying him, which is the crazy part to me, they draft a wide receiver here at number 19.
I mean, listen, Egbuka, he's the smoothest wide receiver that we have in this draft class. And I think the one thing that people said I always hated about him was, okay, he's always been the number 2 receiver at Ohio State. Guys, he played with Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jeremiah Smith, who we'll talk about in 2 years as well. He played with generational talents at the wide receiver position. This guy is no Robin to any Batman. He could really be a legitimate threat in the NFL. Like I said, he's arguably the best route runner, I would say, in this year's draft. I believe, Trevor, you had the comp to Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah, I think he's a bigger version of Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's how he plays.
I do love the player. I think it's a little funky of a fit in Tampa.
I do too. And I mean, you always have to look at alternatives. If you've got Matthew Golden taking the top off, if all Matthew Golden does is run 4-2-9 down the middle of the defense and create space for those other 2 receivers, that makes perfect sense to me. I'm like, okay, I'm in for that. I got that. I understand it. But you're gonna kind of clutter with a lot of the same kind of types. Like, he's almost more of a slot guy, right? I mean, he's not fast. I mean, he's fast, but he's not fast. Mm-hmm. He's not a great route runner. He's a good route runner. He's a solid player.
He is another version, in my opinion, of Chris Godwin.
I'll take that. I agree.
And people, I think, would tell you could never have too many Chris Godwins, and I would agree. I just didn't think that after paying Chris that's what they would do here. So very clearly, they believe they could still win this division for multiple years to come, and they're not going to let offensive playmaker, they're not going to risk whatever Godwin's going to be post-rehab get in the way of that. And I think that's what this pick signals.
I think they're hedging beyond that because this is the last year of Mike Evans' current contract. And just in case he's not getting 1,000 yards again, he's going to be 32, 33 years old. And I mean, you're right.
But you still don't have a deep threat on your team if you take Mike Evans off of it with what you got.
Right. So, I mean, I'm a little at a loss as far as what role Egbuka would play early on. The other thing it tells me is he must have just been the highest player on the Bucs board at this point.
Yep.
And they feel like, okay, we can get more rushers in this class. They just love him. They must have seen Egbuka as a top 12 or 13 talent.
And 100% of the people thought he was the best character guy in the entire draft.
Yes.
Right. And the Bucs gravitate towards investing in guys that they know that they can count on.
nothing speaks to the character more. He might be the best run blocker at the wide receiver position.
That's
in this
again
year's draft.
why the Chris Godwin comps. They probably looked at him and said, "We have our younger Chris Godwin."
Bucky Irving is going to love this guy when he gets
Of course.
there. Absolutely.
Of course.
Again, he does everything at a high level. He's maybe not an elite player at anything, but he does everything at a high level. He's a very solid all-around receiver. Again, for Tampa Bay, it's a little weird.